Cool. All right. More Lotus Sutra. And I'll do a super quick overview. So we've been looking at the Lotus Sutra for this week. It's an old Mahayana text written somewhere around 1234 AD, something like that. And it's very long, and it's very flowery, and it's very repetitive. And the Buddha is telling us all the ways we can become Buddhas, and that everybody can become a Buddha. And we've been looking at chapter 3, because as Kyoshin told us, famous 19th century Zen master Hakuin had a really deep experience reading chapter 3 of the Lotus Sutra. So I am greatly unqualified to talk about this thing here, but we do what we can. We do what we can. Hopefully there's something in here that inspires you. I'm just going to read from some of it, try to offer some thoughts, and I hope it inspires us for this last leg of sesshin. Sometimes when the light at the end of the sesshin tunnel starts to appear, we get senioritis, and we spend a lot of time thinking about what we're going to do when it's done and all that, and that's cool. That's perfectly natural. That's Buddha too. But we can also double our efforts. We can either let off the gas and just coast, or we can say, this is going to be the toughest, the meatiest, the juiciest, the giving my all list part of sesshin. I'm sorry, I'm so tired, y'all. I'm sure you are too. Okay. I'll just dive in. Buddha is talking to Shariputra, and we know Shariputra from the Heart Sutra, which we chant in the mornings. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. And Shariputra has been leading the Arhats in their practice, and their whole thing is attaining nirvana for myself. And this whole sutra, Buddha is talking to these folks saying, like, that's cool, like, just, attaining nirvana is, like, great, and that's, like, a path you can take. But the ultimate Buddhahood, even if you're an arhat, whether you know it or not, real Buddhahood is practicing and maintaining the Dharma for others and sharing this awakening with others. And then there's an analogy of a burning house. The house is an analogy for our life. Anyway, just trying to catch those of us who are just showing up. That's fun when you have to repeat a word. Just catching those who have just shown up. English, man. Okay. Buddha says to Shariputra, do not take pleasure in living in this burning house of the triple world. Do not take pleasure in your life. Come to Sweetwater Zen Center, everybody. Don't take pleasure in your life. What does that mean to you? This warning that Buddha is giving all of us. Don't take pleasure in this life. Do not thirst after inferior objects, sounds, smells, flavors, and tangibles. And as we said yesterday, tangibles, it can go really deep, right? Tangibles could be like a thing, it could be like fancy stuff, but tangibles could also be friendship and well-being and feeling relaxed being treated with dignity, feeling at home, um, being understood, all of these things that we really care about. And if you go on TikTok, you'll see so much about it. Well-being, 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 growth mindset, being your best self. Sorry, that was very judgmental. I'm just trying to, that's kind of like at the heart of a lot of spirituality in our world now. How to be your best self, how to be at peace. Those are all tangible things that we grasp after, that we pursue, instead of just being with what is. So, yeah, don't thirst after any of these tangibles. If you are attached to these objects and have desires, then you will be burned. Yeah, I think that's true. Don't take pleasure in living in this burning house. You will be burned. I don't know if there's anything else to say. Then he says, leave the triple world in haste, and you will obtain the three vehicles. So leaving the triple world, right? So in this parable, this analogy, this guy who's supposed to be the Buddha, is trying to get his kids from, leaving this burning house. So leave this triple world. What does that mean? I really do think that applies to all of us. And I don't know, the way it feels to me doesn't mean, you know, typical home leaving from this ancient Buddha time, right? Buddha left his palace, left his wife, left his kid, said, fend for yourself, good luck, I'm going to go pursue enlightenment. And then, of course, they became his disciples and whatever, but still, he like abandoned his family and his, kingdom and, responsibilities. But I don't think I don't think that has to mean that, to leave this triple world. What is that leaving really? Um, in the Denko Roku, the transmission of light, which tells the stories of all the enlightenment stories of our lineage holders. I remember there's a couple koans that have to do with home leaving. And in one of them, the teacher asks his disciple, did you leave home in body or in spirit? And then it goes on, doesn't really matter. But that's an interesting distinction, right? This home leaving, leaving the triple world. In body would mean leaving your job and going to the monastery and living in a mountain, or leaving society behind and yada yada yada. All your stuff and wearing robes. And that's cool. I guess that's one way. But that's not our path. No one here, at least. It's not my path. Um, I don't encourage that path necessarily. So what is this leaving the triple world, this home leaving in spirit? What would that look like? Um, maybe making a vow to prioritize your practice over your prosperity, over love and romance, over fulfilling your potential, being your best self, all these things. That's real leaving the triple world. And that doesn't mean that we don't engage, right, in society. But I don't know, just an interesting thing to invite into your practice. How do I leave this triple world and maintain my responsibilities and be a, activist and try to make the world a better place and, whatever, all the worldly things that we care about. Um, and of course, part of that koan I was talking about, leaving physically or in spirit, is there really a distinction there? Right? And if you say, oh, well, I'm just going to leave in spirit, I'm just going to focus on that, see how that affects your physical life. Just naturally, just follows. And vice versa. So to even say, did you leave home physically or in spirit, is almost kind of a trap question, tricky question. So yeah, what does he say? Leave the triple world in haste, and you will obtain the three vehicles. The vehicles for Shravakas, which is the Arhats, the Pratyeka Buddhas, which is the second vehicle, which, as a reminder, is kind of like a non-Buddhist vehicle, the vehicle of just simply waking up to the fact of oneness, of no self, of no home to leave in the first place, and in the third vehicle of the Bodhisattva. And then he says, I definitely guarantee this to you. And these are translations too. There's like a million translations, and I definitely guarantee this to you. Again, could be an upaya, right? A skillful means. A lot of this sutra is about how to be skillful with inspiring people to practice, how to really hook them into leaving this triple world. And so we say ridiculous things like, I definitely guarantee this to you. So, take that as you will. In the end, it will come true. You should be diligent and persistent. So that's really the key there, and that's why I was so grateful to see that, because I feel like I have to do a lot of spinning in reading this and making it relevant to sesshin, and coming here and sitting with painful knees and painful backs and boredom and sharing bathrooms with strangers and all of these kind of uncomfortable things. But here it is. Leave the triple world. Don't take pleasure in this burning house. Don't thirst after tangibles. You should be diligent and persistent. So that also kind of points to something I was talking to someone else about today, that, this enlightenment, this genuine leaving of this painful, impermanent world is not something that you just get. It's a lifestyle. I like that. Enlightenment is a lifestyle, and it includes constant practice. For us, it's sesshin. For others, it's bearing witness retreats, maybe. For others, it's yoga. For others, it's, doing good works, going on missions, starting shelters for people, whatever it is. So many different paths. Christian retreats, whatever it may be. Peyote journeys. I don't advocate that. I'm not saying we should go do peyote journeys. But regardless of what the path is, it does require diligence and persistence. And, that should give everybody license to come to sesshin without expectations. If anyone goes on retreat in any capacity, hoping that they'll leave with some kind of thing. In fact, I was even, um, you know, we are eternally grateful to, well, whatever. Yeah, this idea of, I'm going to go sit for a week and then I'll be more able to deal with blah, or then I'll really change the way I feel about blah, blah, blah. I don't know that it's going to serve you. I go to sesshin because I am diligent and persistent about investigating this fucking house that's burning. And then I'm going to do it again and again and again. And even if I don't do sesshin, you can still be diligent in other ways. Making vows to practice. If I say I'm going to practice every day, be diligent about that. Be persistent. Realize that your house is on fire. And really take that vow seriously. You should know that the noble ones praise the teachings of these three vehicles that are self-directed, unrestricted, and independent. That's interesting, huh? These three vehicles of nirvana, non-Buddhist awakening, and the bodhisattva path, the bodhisattva vow, they're self-directed. So they're not dogmatic, I guess, is kind of how I hear that. There's no science or dogma here that you can adhere to. It's yours. It's self-directed. And yeah, the only real way to experience awakening, to be with Jesus, to know God, however you want to put it, is if you just have that burning desire. There's no trick. There's no reward. There's no reward. I'm sorry. You can go home. There's no reward for this. There really isn't. I don't know. Maybe that's just a skillful means, me saying that. So yeah, self-directed. This is on you. Unrestricted. You can leave. You ain't got to be here. Super important, right? I think throughout history there may have been situations where like monasteries became like orphanages maybe, and they kind of was like, maybe there was a little bit more of a like you have to be here, but like true genuine practice, like the door is wide open for you to come in and for you to go out. And going out is great. Going out is awesome. You are unrestricted. There's another story in that Denko Roku, the story of the enlightened guy, all the enlightenment stories. And there's this one ancestor who had his great enlightenment with his teacher, and then he's kind of wandering around, and he stumbles upon some monastery, and for like a month he just sleeps. It's just what he needed to do. And they're like, yo man, you've been here for a month, you just sleep all day, you're eating our food, you're not meditating, you're not working, like it's time to go. And then he says, I just came from, and he names his teacher. He says, I was just, given transmission by this guy. And they're like, oh, really? Why didn't you say so? Yeah, stay as long as you want. And then like the next day he started like sitting harder than anybody and was like the best monk ever. So you're unrestricted. That's freedom. Total freedom. And no guilt, no shame, no like, oh, I haven't done it, I'm so bad. Nah. If what you need is to not practice right now, that's fine too. This is unrestricted and self-directed and independent. When they ride in them, these vehicles, sentient beings will enjoy faculties free from corruption and also powers, paths to enlightenment, meditation, liberation, and concentration. And they themselves will attain immeasurable ease and pleasure. Um, so I think for me, what really sticks out there is being free once as you self-direct yourself into this unrestricted diligence and persistence, you will be free from corruption. It's plain enough. It's kind of cool. And don't take that for granted. I don't know. I do. I'm just talking about myself here. But living a life, like I get so caught up in like things that I have and get that I very often take for granted the fact that like I haven't lied to anybody. I haven't wronged anyone in the past week, at least. I haven't stepped on anyone to get where I'm at. And that's a huge thing that this practice has given me. And it's not necessarily a reward, right? I don't get money, I don't get love, I don't get appreciation, I don't get whatever. But like, I don't know. Don't take for granted the ease of doing good and doing good for others. It's not necessarily a dopamine release or whatever, but there's an ease with that a lot of people don't get. Man, especially doing the meditation in prisons, and you just feel the tension. Even these really good people who just made a mistake, and they have to like stare at their mistake every day. Not to mention all the games and garbage that goes on in there. I mean, it's just, don't take for granted um, being free of corruption. So yeah, being free of corruption. And then he says also free of powers. It's interesting. Free of a path to enlightenment. That's kind of like unrestricted. No path. And the Heart Sutra says that too, right? No extinguishing, no path, no wisdom, no gain. How do we experience this no path? Really seeing for ourselves that any kind of direction anywhere to a thing is completely empty. How do we do that? By following this very specific path of wearing black, waking up early, sitting, bowing here, turning there, going to Daison, doing the service, blah, blah, blah. Pretty pathy, right? But I don't know, that resonates for me. Really committing to this path with others, and then just naturally, organically experiencing no path, free from any path to enlightenment, free of meditation. It's kind of like shikantaza for those of us who dabble in shikantaza. Other practices too, I guess, use this kind of non-meditation. It's a good way to talk about shikantaza. Any kind of point of focus or direction of your meditation is not shikantaza. Shikantaza is totally free of meditation. Just sitting, just being this. That shit's heavy. And I really appreciate Aitken Roshi, because a lot of people say, like Suzuki Roshi was famous for saying, after 40 years, I'm not ready for Shikantaza. And a lot of teachers will say, you can't do Shikantaza until you've done all the koans and no. But I remember in Aitken Roshi's Taking the Path of Zen, close to the beginning of the book, I think, or somewhere in the middle, he says, hey, this is Shikantaza. No meditation, just being this moment. Try it out. And this is a book for beginners. And of course, yeah, I don't know, I'm just rambling now, but even on the official Soto School website, um, I sent this to the ZMI circle. They even say, the Soto Zen School says now, they have a Zazen instruction page, and it says, don't count your breaths, don't follow your breaths. Those are lesser vehicle mind control devices. You should just sit with what is. And then I told that to Seisen, and Seisen said, good luck with that. And, Soto Zen centers all over the world are teaching breath counting. It's interesting. Anyway, free from meditation, free of liberation. Yeah, be free of enlightenment. Be free of these tangible things we want. I want peace, I want liberation, I want stuff, I want wisdom. Imagine being free of that and just be diligent. That's it. And then you will have immeasurable ease and pleasure. Let's go hard on this last couple sits, y'all. Thank you so much for doing sesshin. I hope that you do not take for granted the merits of doing good and doing good for others.